Welcome everyone, my name is Nissa and thanks for joining us for this Wild Earth travel presentation on one of the world's most fascinating expedition cruise destinations, Papua New Guinea. Often referred to as the final frontier of expedition cruising, Papua New Guinea remains one of the least visited and most culturally diverse countries on Earth, home to hundreds of distinct cultures, more than 800 languages, pristine coral reefs, dense rainforests, and remote island communities. It is a destination that rewards curious travelers seeking authentic experiences far beyond the typical tourist trail. Its rugged coastline, scattered islands, and limited road infrastructure make it a place that is best explored by small ship, where each day brings opportunities to step ashore in places few travellers ever reach. At Wild Earth Travel, expedition cruising is what we do best. We offer 22 different itineraries in Papua New Guinea across 12 expedition vessels, giving our travellers an incredible range of ways to experience this remarkable destination. If you're looking for cultural immersion, exceptional snorkeling and diving, World War II history, or extraordinary wildlife, there's an itinerary to suit. One of those vessels is the luxurious Paspaley Pearl, which our very own Neil recently experienced firsthand. Today, he'll be sharing what it's really like to explore Papua New Guinea by small ship, along with his favourite moments, insights, and tips from the journey. So let's head to Papua New Guinea and hear from Neil.
I did a fantastic trip to New Guinea, to the eastern islands of New Guinea with Pearl Expeditions. And yeah, it was just a wonderful way to see a lesser traveled part of the world, especially the way they do it. And the good thing about Pearl Expeditions is that their mainstay is the Kimberley, and now New Guinea, and also Raja Ampat in Indonesia. So they only concentrated on those three areas. And they have three fantastic itineraries in New Guinea, one around the Sepak River in the north, one around New Britain, with a real focus on the wildlife and the sea life up there. And the one that I did, which was, if this works, Papua New Guinea's Hidden Secrets. So here's the itinerary. It's a 10-day itinerary. It starts and finishes in Cairns, and it runs every October at the moment. So we set off from Cairns, actually getting on the ship, and I'll talk about the ship in more detail. Heads up to the Samurai Islands, over to the Boyne Lagoon, the Torobaran, Tufi, over to Morobe Harbour, sorry, the Tami Islands, Tuam Islands, and then finishes in Madang, where you have a day visiting one of the local villages before the next morning getting up and flying back from Madang to Cairns. So it's a fully immersive trip, Cairns, essentially, and it's a great way to do it. There's a little bit of a blurb on what the trip is about, but it's a real cultural explosion, trying to be as authentic and respectful as they can, and introducing you to sort of this beautiful part of the Pacific Ocean that is so close to Australia, but very few people visit. The numbers that go through here are very low. The wildlife and bird life spotting opportunities are incredible, even off the back of the ship, to being on the Zodiacs with naturalists. Crystal clear snorkeling in some of the across the islands. The water up here is so clear and clean. It's just beautiful. And we travel with 4 naturalists on board the ship, so it's a maximum size of 30 people on this little boat. 4 naturalists, so that's a ratio of 1 to 7. And the naturalists are marine biologists, geologists, and they have a real affinity for the wildlife as well as the cultural relations that you need for visiting these islands. There is the Paspaley Pearl, the wonderful ship that we use. It's a 30-passenger, I would call it a 30-passenger luxury motor yacht. Comfortably fits 30 people, great for groups. So if we had a group traveling, a family group, you could hire the whole ship out and really do what you like on it, and they do get a lot of that. The lower level where you can see the windows, the front section is the cabins. They're the ocean view cabins. There is one dedicated single on the ship, and I'll show you that in a bit later. Twin and double and queen bed cabins across there. So they're all window. The back where you see the smaller windows closer together, that is the dining area. And again, I'll show you that later. And then the level above is the small balconies are the Horizon suites. They're 20 square meters. All the other suites are 14 to 18. The double single suite 14, the rest are 18. So they have a small two square meter balcony. And then the very front of the ship there is the Pearl Suite, which is 27 square meters. So it's one big double fronted suite there. And then you have ocean deck level on deck level 3, 4, and on the top deck as well. Just showing you the beautiful sunsets that you're going to get in this part of the world. It is something special, and you can see that the size of the ship with that open deck space at the back there really showcases the 3 areas there that you can use. And then there's the ship in situ. So the open dining, there's 2 lots of dining. There's an inside dining and open deck dining. They breakfast up on the open dining every day. And then they'll mix between lunches depending on the weather on the open deck to the lower deck. 9 times out of 10, they'll use the top open deck. This will fit everyone. And there's made to measure breakfast as well as a small buffet on the side. And with lunch, the same again. You get made to measure lunches, and they have a salad, essentially a salad buffet on the side. So that's the open deck. And then the dining room is downstairs. And they tend to take most of the evening meals down here. As it does get quite dark, and it's a very intimate. It's like being in a 5-star restaurant. The chef on board is a Michelin, or not a Michelin, sorry, a hatted chef who has come on board the ship. So his meals are exquisite, using local cuisine wherever he can, local produce wherever he can, sorry, and makes fantastic 3-course meals, and they cover for all varieties of food as well. So if there's any dietaries, not an issue with these guys because they're small and nimble and they can do everything. The actual chef team is 4 strong, so it's actually pretty good for what they do with the food and the beverages. I forgot to mention all meals and beverages are included on all their itineraries, so people do not have to worry about anything. From fantastic local sodas and teas and coffees through to top end wines and things like that. So it's not an issue at all. They have a small lounge area. This is opposite the dining area, inside lounge. That's the small lounge, and quite often you're welcomed either here if there were or on the top deck when you get on the ship. And then the very top deck, the deck 3, they have a jacuzzi that can fit 12 people. It is huge, very comfortable, a great way to watch sunset. We spent quite a few afternoons sitting here having a drink while watching the sunset. Big lounge area towards the back, and towards the back of it, they can put on 2 fishing boats. So they do fishing charters through the Northern Territory and Queensland as well. So dedicated, and they are fishing boats. They're essentially out there to go fishing for barramundi if you want that. You can't do fishing in New Guinea. It's not one of those things that's done because fishing is the livelihood of the islands, and so they trade their fish and different styles of shells and things between the islands. So we don't do any fishing when you're traveling through there, so people ask. So just showing you quickly the cabins. This is the Pearl Suite at the front of the ship. As you see, double length across the front, beautiful side views and the bathrooms to match. This is really truly a lovely cabin if people want to splurge and go for the top cabin. This is the Horizon Suites with their small balconies. So you can see the size of them. That's the size of the balcony, so people have got an idea. It's just a small area where you can sit. Then moving to the ocean stateroom. So this is the queen bedded stateroom, and you can see the windows actually give you ample light, and the staterooms are quite large. And this is the dedicated double/single. So they have one double bedded room, slightly smaller than all the rest, and they use this as the dedicated single on the ship if need be. Indigenous art throughout the whole ship on the left, as you'll see there, and each door has a little what do you call their Indonesian or the New Guinean or their Kimberley style door hangers. You put that on the door and you can leave that hanging on the door if you don't want the room made up. So that's just sitting there. It's just a different way of doing that there. You receive water bottles on board. They have these fantastic adapter plugs on board, so people with Australian plugs can use it, but it's got all the phone plugs and things like that. They're great for charging your cameras as well. And then the bathrooms are actually quite large, and it's something that is unique for a very small ship. The bathrooms are plenty of room for two people, large showers. They use Aesop products throughout. So they just really thought of all the amenities when they refurbed this ship. Foreign flag, so it can travel through these waters, and this is our start in Cairns. And as we're heading out from Cairns, you can see the open ocean. So we spend the first day and a half of the itinerary, or the evening and day, is cruising up to New Guinea from Cairns. Great for bird and wildlife spotting. We spent days just sitting on the front of the deck or the back of the deck with the guides and naturalists, and they would talk about what they're going to be doing the next few days. They do provide a good bit of history about the islands as well in their talks, and that's all done on that back open deck area. They have a massive 80-inch television where they can do all their presentations from. But it's just a great way. And the first of those magical sunsets start coming in. The sunsets over the Coral Sea are pretty special. And here's just a couple of shots from the first couple of days. The clouds roll in and you just get these beams of light traveling everywhere. Our first stop, though, and I'm going through the islands in a bit of detail, is the Samurai Islands. It's one of the colonial areas of New Guinea, and this was the Pearl of the Pacific. It was at one point, I believe, the capital of the region. But it's a very modern take on everything. It's got villas up on the mountains and old houses, and it was a vibrant place in the 50s and 60s, and it's dropped away a bit now. But they're looking to do a lot of refurbishment of the island to make it more attractive for people to come through. It's probably got one of the largest populations, and very much important is how we interact, especially with the chief. So this is the chief there, and every stop, Pearl Expeditions gave them sporting equipment, books, writing, things like that to give to the children to use, so as a gift. And this island has a very probably modern take on the welcome. Probably they're heavily influenced by the Christianity of these islands that we visited, and you wander around. So they're slightly different. And there's another version of this, of a welcome to one of the other small islands we visited. You can see the ships there, but you can see this beautiful old colonial that is in need a bit of a repair, but they're looking to do that throughout the thing. They reuse a lot of things. This is an old diving bell or diving tank that they've created, and that is the church bell. So on this particular island, we did a small walk up to the top of the mountain, or top of the hill, not really a mountain hill, and there's this beautiful open air church up there. As I said, these part of the islands are really influenced by recent Christian missionaries, so there's a real Christian theme to it. But it's probably one of the most beautiful churches I've seen, because this is your view as soon as you walk out the door. There's nothing more special than this. And while we're up there, we had darting kites flying through, which the bird lovers amongst us were in awe of, because they're very rare and very hard to find up there. Moving on from there, we moved to an area called the Boyne Lagoon. This triangular atolls, 3 different small islands, and was one of the key battle areas for the Coral Sea. Here we had a very interesting welcome. There is the chief. He ran down he was on his boat fishing. He came hurtling in from nowhere to make sure. He said, "Oh, welcome. I'm sorry, I was out fishing. It was a good day to fish." And he's holding probably a meter-long fish under his arm as he's walking up the beach. But this is this atypical New Guinea tropical islands, as you'll see. The people were so welcoming. We got to walk through the village. They still hand build all their boats up there. And then obviously they use new motorboats to get between the islands, but they still use these for fishing. So it's very traditional culture. And everywhere we visited, we got a welcome, a sing-sing. So from there, we got our first taste of snorkeling that afternoon. We went across the lagoon to one of the smaller islands, and as you see, the traditional fishing boats there. And it was, oh, sorry, go back here. It was here that we got to snorkel and see our first fish underwater, but we snorkeled over a 1942 Zero bomber plane that was crash landed there. It is still in perfect condition underwater. You can swim down and look at the cockpit and have a look around. And the fish there are amazing. Here we saw a lionfish hiding underneath. So he was in full bloom too, trying to scare us away from his little hiding spot. But turtles all around. It was just a beautiful first experience for our snorkeling. Moving on, we moved to the Trobriand Islands. The Islands of Love, as they call them. Here they do a lot of the cooler exchange. So it was one of the big exchange islands. And this is where we got our first welcoming committee in the ocean. So you can see the guys just turning up on the canoes, just hanging out. They just wanted to hang out while we pulled up on the ship and were getting permissions to go ashore. You can see them here. At one point, I counted 40 different boats out there. Here they are again. They just come out. They just want to have a chat and say hi. And even the smallest guys are paddling the canoes. I mean, this kid would have been maybe 3 or 4, but he could paddle that canoe no problem, even though the paddle was 4 times bigger than him. So this is where we got a real experience to travel up through the fjords, probably the most beautiful fjord region of the islands, up to Tufi. And this is where we got to see some some cultural exchanges beyond belief. We got met by these wonderful outrigger canoes by the local tribe, and they picked us up, and everyone hops on board. As you can see here, an illustrious group getting on board. There was about 2 or 3 to every boat, and then they paddled us upriver. And both the men and the women paddle and have conversations with you. And you can see how incredibly strong they are. They're not a tall bunch of people, but very strong and super friendly all the way up. And then we got there and we got so this is them paddling, just to show you how easy it was for them to paddle us heavy Westerners. Just a beautiful serene as we paddle up to the end of the river lagoon. This was a brother and sister that we had. And then when you get there, this is the welcome you get. Pretty convincing. So it is a frightening welcome. They do that to say, hey, watch out. Who are you? We're stronger than you. And then once you get through that welcome and then you smile at them, you're welcome into the village. So it was just a great way to introduce everyone to one of our sort of more remote meetings. Here we got sago. They showed us how they make sago, and we bought the sago so that the ship could use it for future things. So massive bunches of sago, and they make them into these huge areas. And then the tapa cloth, and they showed us how they make the tapa cloth, and then showed us how they dye it, and then they dry them out. And that's probably one of the best places to buy your tapa cloth and great wall hangings. I grabbed one and it's hanging in my kitchen now. So this beautiful cloth, and I can agree price with them. You pay everything in local currency there, so by cash. So we do recommend that people who do travel bring some local cash, whether you get it in Australia before you go or when you land at in the first island, but usually get it in Australia before you go, so you've got some. That's usually the best way. They don't do exchange on the ship at all. And then just to show our local leader Joel tried to get in one of the canoes, and he wasn't a tall guy. He was only 5'9", but he struggled to get in the canoe, and he found it very hard to paddle around. But he gave it a go anyway. He said it was very hard to keep it balanced, which he thought would be easier, but he said it's just very hard to keep that little thing balanced. Moving on to the other side of the lagoon, we had a different welcome, and again, this is maybe no longer than 2 kilometers away, and it's a different side of the island, but it's a different welcome. Very vibrant, very colourful, using a lot of the feathers from the birds that you can find up there. You can just see them here. So what they do is that they don't kill all the birds or anything like that. They find the birds, they get the feathers that are left behind, and they create these ornate headdresses. And here they do expert tattooing as well. Moving on, we move to Morobe Harbour next. And this was, again, a fantastic island to visit. They're very patriotic New Guineans, these guys. They're very much, but they're also patriotic to their own area. The beach was a sort of a semi-black sand beach. It was quite hot the day we arrived. We were first welcomed by the ladies, followed by the men, who have this unique dance. They cover themselves in mud. And you'll notice the sort of dark patches of sand there. That's where they've thrown water down, because the sand was so hot. They found it hard to move around. But the men's welcome dance is a little bit different. The men sing. Here's one of the chiefs of the island. He was just sitting there and just happy to chat with everyone. And then we were welcomed with coconut water, fresh fruit. And then we got to wander the island for about an hour to two, and went through the small village. We lost one of our ladies who grew up in New Guinea. She ended up having tea in one of the ladies' houses. We lost her for a good hour while she was chatting to all the ladies in Pidgin. She was fluent in Pidgin English, so she was fantastic. But they showed us around the island, took us to the various huts that they wanted to show off to us. And this happened in all the places that we visited. So it was just an amazing thing. On the back end of the island, we did some fantastic wildlife spotting, where we saw the palm cockatoo in the wild, which, for our two bird naturalists, they got very excited because they had never seen a palm cockatoo in the wild. And a unique thing about the palm cockatoo, the black palm cockatoo, is that it drums tree branches with a stick to call its mate. It's the only drumming bird in the world. So it picks up a stick in its beak, finds a hollowed tree branch, and will bang it to make as much noise as it can to draw its mate to him. So, yeah, just a fantastic afternoon. Moving on, we move to the Tummy Islands. And again, very welcome, very different welcome again here. As we move from island to island, the welcomes seem to get more and more elaborate and stunning. This place is well known for its carving, and they do a fantastic little open air market for those people who want to buy carving. A lot of people do ask, because it's wood, is it okay? We get it checked over by the crew, and everything you buy here you can actually bring back into Australia, which is quite good. So that's probably, and same for New Zealand, but it's the key thing. But the carvings are stunning. The plates are amazing that they make, bowls here. And then they have a very unique welcome. As you can see, there's a couple of the different costumes that they have here. These huge heads come in with these huge headpieces that they wear. It was there that we then spent time with the crafts and moving back to the island. And that's where we got our first rain squall that rolled on through the island. And true to form, the Pearl expedition teams were on the money. He said, right, time to leave. We shot back across the water before the rain hit, and we just hit the boat as the rain hit. And that rain squall lasted for 2 hours. So it was a proper tropical rain squall that came through. But they found things then for us to do. We were meant to go back and have a barbecue on the beach. Didn't happen. True expedition style. Let's change up and we'll do things. So we had a bit of fun with the crew that afternoon. Moving on to our next islands, we went up to the Tuam Islands. Real culturally rich islands. Love their music and dance up here. Very important to them. And probably we had our best snorkeling area here off this island. This island is a crescent-shaped island, so it's protected on one side. The other side is quite rough and ready. You get big waves, but they get a lot of flopsam and jetsam coming off there, like logs and all sorts, and they reuse a lot of it on the island. So they reuse a lot of it to build their housing. They do all things like that. So they're probably the ultimate responsible people for the world, because they everything that turns up they use. I was on this particular island too. All the islands love their soccer and their rugby. They're big rugby fans in New Guinea, both rugby league and rugby union. But this particular island, on the top part of the island, they have a full-size rugby soccer pitch. They play rugby, they play soccer. And then I was having a chat to the chief, and he goes, oh, yeah, we also hear a lot of our guys play Aussie rules football. So they play a square version of Aussie rules up on the rugby pitch as well. So, but it was really good. We got to interact with the local kids. We had a good 3 or 4 hours of snorkeling and just enjoying the beach here. And they were jumping off the rocks. They were showcasing how good they were at doing things. We got the stand-up paddle boards out, and that was it. We lost them. They were on them and practicing jumping off and doing things. And even a couple of the boys got out canoes and their makeshift boogie boards, which are big pieces of flat wood. That's it. And they showed us what they can do with a little wave. So the southern side of the island gets this little wave, the north side gets some big waves. And I was talking to one of the guides, or one of the locals there, and he said, yeah, on the good days, we'll go to the north side and we'll surf the canoes like this. So just showcasing their skills. These kids would have been 18 now. So there we had our best snorkeling. This is me and my wife just taking a great selfie to finish off the day. And then we had our final dinner up on deck. So it was a beautiful 3-course dinner up on deck to celebrate everyone on the group. As you can see, we had not quite 30, we had about 18 to 20 on board. So it was a good sized group and a good mix of people from all over the world. Germans, Brits, Americans, Canadians, and Australians on board. So it was a real mix. And even the guy at the front here was Danish. So yeah, it was a fantastic way to meet people from all over the world and lifelong friendships. And then we finish in Madang. This is the last bit of the trip. We come up to Madang, and that's where you fly home from. The kids were so welcoming. We walked around the village. It was Sunday, so we had to make sure we go around the village safely. They had 2 churches in this village, and they were going off and lots of singing. The kids just wanted to have a chat and talk and follow us around. Beautiful little inlet that they visit, and this is their view from their small village, which is something special. And you're only literally 20 minutes from Madang, which is the second biggest city in New Guinea. And it was just a great way to finish. And we had a night in Madang, overlooking the harbour. Beautiful way to finish before we flew out the next day back on flights via Port Moresby back to Cairns. So just showcasing the crew. These are our expedition team. So one of the days we had a bit of fun showcasing what we do and how they had to draw animals and we had to guess what they were and where we saw them and things like that. And as you can see, a young, vibrant crew, well experienced. They're all super well experienced, knew their products intimately. Divers, snorkelers, wildlife, bird watchers, everything that they knew, and real strong knowledge on culture and the history of the region as well. The kids, so it was possibly one of the best trips that I'd done in a long time, and I highly recommend it.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much, Neil. So in a nutshell, which traveller would be most suited for this trip?
Oh, absolutely. Probably their average traveller would be the 45, 50 plus couple range. Yep. But they do get these family groups which will half charter or charter the whole ship. So that happens quite a lot. But that's probably the range you get because they want to be interested in the culture and history and be active enough to be able to snorkel. So that's probably where they sit.